Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be sharing your bookish hot takes. Alright guys, so first off, I apologize for the voice. I'm still getting over strep and the flu, so I filmed 3 videos today instead of 2, so hopefully there will only be 3 videos where I sound like this, and my next filming day, I will have a normal voice. But anyway, this hot takes video idea has been going around for a while. The first person I saw do it was Tori from Novel Life, and then I know Jess from Peace Love Books has done it. I saw Crystal did it on her Instagram, so I figured I wanted to give it a try. So I asked over on my Instagram for you guys to tell me your bookish hot takes. You did not disappoint. I will say I posted this twice. So the first day I posted on Instagram, out of 80 responses, a little less than 80, over 40 of them were about book boxes. So there will be a whole section on book boxes and special editions, but then there's also about just book reviewing in general, also hot takes on certain books, and then also hot takes on the bookish community and content creators. So I broke it up into sections, and I'm very excited and kind of nervous to talk and react to these hot takes with you. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Patreon, and Goodreads, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's get into these bookish hot takes. Alright guys, so like I said in the intro, I broke it down into different categories. So first up, we have book boxes and special editions, and then reviews and Goodreads, and then just books in general, and then bookish creators and the community. So starting off with book boxes, I had so many people say some version of book boxes should release the cover of books prior to ordering them. It's not fair that book boxes don't always tell you the book that you are going to get the following month and things of that nature. Now, when I first started getting special edition boxes, my first one was Fairy Loot. And I thought it was really cool that I would be able to try to guess the book I was receiving based on the clues that Fairy Loot gave. However, now that I am a part of Mystic Box, I actually prefer the way they do things. So they post little clues to who the author is going to be, but they announce it prior to you being billed. So that way you know if you want to skip a box or not. I think that is the way to go. I would much rather know what book I am about to get and be surprised that way than be surprised when I open up the book box and I hate the book. So I feel like mostly with Fairy Loot, because I love Fairy Loot's adult books. I've loved all of them. And I just joined their Romantasy book-only subscription, but their YA has been really hit or miss, and I know there are books that I would rather skip, and it kind of stinks not being positive what book is the book of the month. So I agree with that. I really wish book boxes did let you know prior. I just feel like the way Mystic Box and Arcane Box does it is the way to go. Okay, so there's that. But then there's also, I think it also depends on the price point, because Hello Lovely does trope of the month, and you don't know what book you're going to get, but at the same time, you know what trope, and I feel like that I'm okay with, only because I know what tropes I like. So if it's a fake dating book, I'm skipping that because I know I don't like that trope. So I feel like I'm more okay with Hello Lovely than I am with Fairy Loot, if that makes any sense. Okay, next one is a lot of people saying book boxes are a scam. The bookish world is being taken over by special editions. It is so ridiculous how much special editions cost. Bookstagram just feels like a lot of special editions and book boxes being thrown at you and pressure to buy all of these special editions. So here's the thing. I'm very conflicted when it comes to special editions. One, I do think there's way more out there than there used to be, to the point where special editions don't always feel very special. Now, there are special editions I have that I love, mostly because of the artwork. I am a sucker for really good, beautiful character artwork. However, also at the same time, no one is forcing me to buy special editions. So just because there's a lot of special editions out there, I feel like that doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy them. So while I do think we are getting oversaturated with special editions, at the same time, you can choose what you want to buy and what you don't want to buy. So I know for me, I am cutting down on special editions because I was buying them like crazy, especially last year. And I've realized that is very unnecessary. Most of my special editions, like I know my favorite special editions. So unless it is a book that I absolutely adore, I am going to try not to buy every special edition. There's also a lot going on. I got a lot of hot takes over the Throne of Glass box set. Now, I will say, I love Throne of Glass, and there hasn't been a lot of Throne of Glass special edition books that have come out. So there's been a lot of dust jackets, and I own a lot of different SJM dust jackets. Now, luckily, those are significantly cheaper than buying a full set of special edition books. So I probably will not buy the Throne of Glass set. However, I think it is absolutely gorgeous. And definitely, if you are a huge fan of Sarah J. Maas, I understand wanting to buy that. So yeah, I think I'm not really going to go into the hot takes over that because I don't have a lot of feelings towards that special edition box set. But I think it is SJM and it probably will sell out. Yeah, book boxes, they have. And also, they're very expensive. And yeah, I have a lot of feelings over book boxes. So I totally understand where everyone is coming from. Yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it for book boxes. Okay, so next up is pressure to buy new releases can be very expensive. Totally agree. And this is where it gets really hard, especially if you're a content creator, in terms of wanting to read all of the new releases and post about the new releases. But also, that becomes unbelievably expensive. So that is another thing I am working on. Personally, for me, there are still people out there that are going to buy all of the special editions. And guess what? If you are a collector, that is great. I'm so happy for you. People collect books. It's a hobby. So I think that is totally fine. If that is what you want to spend your money on, that's great for you. But I am definitely going to try to cut down, especially with new releases. I want to try to utilize Libby a lot more and also the library and just not buying new releases until I've read them and know that they're a book I'm going to want to reread. So yeah, I think there is pressure, especially in the content creator community, to buy all the new releases and also read the new releases. But I'll talk about that in the next section. But yeah, I totally understand that. And then said that special editions are not special unless they have a ribbon. And I completely agree. So when I first started, I had Fairy Loot, like I said, and most of those books had a ribbon. So I thought ribbons were standard in book boxes. And then I've received so many now special editions that don't have a ribbon. And it makes me so sad because that is like a built-in bookmark and it's so easy. And it just adds like another level, and totally agree with you, April. 100%. I wish we had ribbons in all of our special editions. So yeah, so someone said that. Another person said that not all Red Tower books are good. Now, the thing is, I've only read, I believe, Fourth Wing from Red Tower. So I don't know if that's true or not. And I really loved Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. So yeah, I don't have a lot of experience, like I can't really talk on that because I'm pretty sure those are the only two Red Tower books. I will say their edges are pretty, at least the stencil edges are pretty. The sprayed edges, kind of not my thing. But yeah, so yeah, I'm not really sure how to react to that one. So last up is one I wasn't sure if I wanted to put it in community or keep it with book boxes, but it says Bookstagram feels like an ad, lots of special editions, business plugs, and rep codes. So here's the thing with that. I understand why, from the content creator side, why it is starting to feel, okay, first of all, let me say I do agree that it feels like Bookstagram in particular has really shifted. And one, it's feeling a lot more almost competitive. And it also does feel a little bit more business focused. Now, I am someone who does post about my rep codes just because it's an easier way for me to make money. Now, the two companies I rep for, I adore both of the creators of those small businesses so much. So I love shouting them out. Novelix and My Book Goddess. I wear My Book Goddess shirts in almost every one of my videos. And Novelix, I have an addiction to Murphy's candles. And just the artwork is amazing. So like I love shouting out and like sponsoring or talking about those two companies. Now, I feel like in terms of business, some people are making this their careers, and that is unbelievably amazing. I wish I could do that. I don't have the courage to quit my job and try to make this a full-time thing. But so that's possibly why it does feel a little bit more business. And also people reading ARCs and things like that. Personally, I only accept audiobook ARCs. So I don't read a lot of ARCs. However, if I do, I will make a point to say I was given this book for free. This is my honest review. And I feel like most of the people that I follow do that. So I'm not as concerned about false advertising when it comes to books. But also, you choose who you follow. So if you're feeling like the people that you follow are genuine, or like you don't, you just think it does feel like an ad, then you can find new content creators. And there are so many out there. So I will talk about this when I get to the community section, but I had 2 different people comment about the community and being a new booktuber. And honestly, I was so sad when I read these comments. So I'm definitely going to talk about that at the end of this video, because this should be a positive place. And please, if you are thinking about becoming a content creator, there is space for you. And please give it a try. You can DM me. Might take me a while to respond. I've gotten really bad at it. But there's so much room in this community for different content creators. The beauty of BookTube is we all are going to have a different experience with books. So there's space for everybody. So I'll get to that into the community. But anyway, know that. So yeah, just you get to choose who you follow. So if you are not vibing with someone, don't follow them. If you're not vibing with me, it is fine. I understand. Once again, reading is subjective, and just people sometimes don't vibe with other people's personalities, and that is totally okay. That is life. I will get to that also in the last section. So, okay. So that is it for book boxes, and moving into reviews. All right, this first one, I so agree with, and I feel like this is recent. So I don't read reviews because they ruin my experience. And I am not talking about other bookstagrammers or their reviews. I am talking about the legit, actually, I have no idea what this person is talking about, but I'm pretty sure I know who sent this. So I'm pretty sure they're talking about the same thing I was talking about. But as far as like Goodreads, there has been so many times Goodreads has ruined twists of books, and it drives me bonkers. So I've actually taken a step back from reading synopsis because I don't want the book ruined for me, especially if it's on Goodreads or Amazon, because I feel like that's happening. Also with TikTok, there are times where I feel like the love interest is spoiled in different like reels and things like that. Now, sometimes I understand you're looking for an attention grabber. So I get it. So I don't mind if there are quotes from the book and things like that. I just don't want the entire plot of the book spoiled for me. So I totally understand where that person is coming from. This person said, oh, same person. I'm not searching for the title in the comments of a reel if the reel doesn't say what the book is. I've noticed this with TikTok. I really don't see reels very often. That's not where I look to get book recommendations. I still look on BookTok. I don't make content on that platform, but I'll watch it. And I feel like there's so many times where I'll see a quote and I'll be like, this book sounds so good, and I cannot for the life of me find the title of the book, and I have to go through the comments. So yeah, I really wish that they just had the title in the reel. Now, there might be a reason for that. I'm not familiar with TikTok's algorithm, so maybe you get more views if people are looking through your comments and things like that. So there might be a reason. I just don't know it. So I agree with you. So this also, I wasn't sure where I wanted to put this. So you guys got some like really steamy hot takes. And if you disagree with anything I say, please, we can have a discussion in the comments as long as we're both being nice to each other. So let me just say that. But someone said, you can't share your true authentic feelings about books anymore. I believe you can. You just have to do it in a respectable way. So I've noticed, especially on my videos, the negative comments have skyrocketed of people completely disagreeing with me, but also kind of being nasty about why they disagree with me. And reading is subjective. We can both read a book and have two totally different feelings on said book. And that's great. And I love having discussions in my comments. And I've had discussions via DMs where people have started it with, I completely disagree with you. But anyway, why did you feel this way? I think that is fine. I think that we should be able to share our thoughts on books. That is why we review books. Anyway, those are my thoughts when it comes to giving your authentic feelings. I always try when I give a book review to be respectful and explain why I might not like a book, but also I also try to give a reason why someone else might enjoy said book. So that's just my style of reviewing. Also, this is totally me, and I feel like this person might have been trying to call me out, which is fine. This person said, I hate when content creators don't have reviews that make sense. Like, why is every book a 4-star? I'm notorious for giving every book a 4-star. So I am one of those people that my rating scale, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I rate on vibes. So like if I had a fun time with a book, it's probably getting a 4-star. Now, I will explain on my Instagram, because that's where I post my reviews, what I like and what I didn't like about a book, and then my rating. But yeah, typically I rate almost all books 3.75 to 4.5 stars. I really have to dislike a book to rate it low. And I'll explain, once again, if I rate something low, that is why. But I feel like a lot of content creators and reviewers, they do explain the rating system. Mine is very flawed, and I know that, and I'm telling you guys that. But I feel like there are content creators that have really good rating systems, and they explain it very, very well. So it's not all of us. It's definitely me. I love everything. So yes, I do rate books pretty high, but I think that's just a personal choice, and that is totally up to the reviewer. All right, I feel like we covered some very intense topics already, but the next section is books, and it's a little bit more laid back. So the first one, I was hysterically laughing because it's from my friend from college, and I could not agree more. It says, fantasy romance needs to be a little bit more creative with titles. I'm so sick of A Court of Blank and Blank, or Between Blank and Blank, or Soul, Blood, Ash in fantasy romance titles. So totally agree with you. They're becoming so repetitive, but I just feel like that's a thing. Like, I don't think we're ever getting away from that. Since I've been on BookTube, most fantasy romance titles have had that kind of title. Now I really hope we get into some more like original titles down the line, but that is 100% a thing. Like, they all sound very similar. My husband says it all the time. He'll make up titles for the book I'm reading, and he's gotten pretty close sometimes when I'll explain the plot, and he's like, oh, it's blank of blank and blank, and I'm like, that's pretty accurate. So I just thought that was funny. Next up is a lot of people talking about copycat ACOTAR, poor editing, and just rushing fantasy romance. I see where you're coming from. I feel like there's definitely like, I don't want to say an ACOTAR formula, because a lot of people will just have an enemies to lovers, and they'll say it's similar to Sarah J. Maas, which isn't always the case. But I just feel like fantasy romance is really becoming popular. Like, it's really blown up since Carissa Broadbent and Rebecca Yarros, and obviously Sarah J. Maas. But I feel like Sarah J. Maas is so well known as being like the fantasy romance person that a lot of people will try to say her name on their book, so that way if you're a fan of Sarah J. Maas, you'll like my book. So I understand why the publishing industry is kind of doing that for like fans of Jennifer L. Armentrout, fans of Sarah J. Maas. But also, I mean, I get it. I totally get it. Now, as far as poor editing, I feel like there are some books that feel a little rushed. It was actually really interesting. I read a Dawn of Onyx with Hannah Blackwell and then Tiff from Tiff Talks Pages, and they both had the traditionally published version and I had the indie published, And it was so interesting to see what was edited out and what was left. So I feel like editing, it depends if you're doing indie or traditional. And I'm not trying to say indie has poor editing. There are some indie books I've read. There's some fan fiction I read that is better edited than traditionally published books. But I feel like it depends who you're reading. And yeah, I feel like just there are some times that books do feel rushed. Particularly, I feel like Jennifer L. Armentrout, her From Blood and Ash series and the prequel series, those books feel very rushed. And I feel like the editing suffers and the writing suffers because they feel rushed. So I feel like we could slow down a little bit. But yeah, I get where you're coming from. This person said, I don't like enemies to lovers unless they are real enemies to lovers. So agree. And I feel like there are so many fantasy romances where they are sold as enemies to lovers, but then they're lovers within the first third of the book. So I can get that being so frustrating, and I get frustrated by that. I love a solid, I hate you, and now I'm obsessed with you. Like, those are my favorite. Also, there's some contemporary romances that have enemies to lovers really well. Like Sophie Lark, Brutal Birthright, that first book, that is true enemies to lovers. Like, literally, the heroine tries to kill her intended on their wedding day. So, yeah, I prefer real enemies to lovers. And I'm fine with the entire first book being enemies and then the next book in the series being lovers. Like, that is totally okay. So, I wish that was more prevalent. All right, next up is, let's see. You don't need cliffhangers to make you pick up the next book. I kind of agree with this, and I kind of don't. So, one, I agree. I feel like there's books out there that don't end on cliffhangers that I still love them and wanted to continue with the series. However, I understand why series end on cliffhangers just to keep that momentum going where you want to continue with the series. So I feel like cliffhangers, especially when a book is taking a while for the next book to come out and they know it's going to be a while, they end on cliffhangers to keep you motivated to pick up the next book. However, there are times that, yeah, I wish books didn't end on cliffhangers. So I can see the benefits and also the disadvantages to that. So some of these are just like personal taste that I wanted to respond to. So someone said cowboy romances and monster romances aren't sexy. First of all, once again, reading subjective, so totally valid if you're not into that. Also though, you might haven't found the right one because I hated cowboy romances. Then I read Heartless and wow, is Kate Eaton sexy. I'm all about cowboy romances now that I've read one that I really enjoyed. Same thing with monster romances, although monster romances I've had a really difficult time with. Probably 1 out of every 10 monster romance I end up really enjoying. However, Ensnared, Tiffany Roberts, Spider Romance, never thought I'd be into that. I was into that. So I think maybe you haven't found the right one, or might just not be for you. Totally fine. This person also said they hated The Hating Game. I'm with you. I hated The Hating Game. I don't like office romances. So for me, office romances aren't sexy. Anytime I have to read about work, I just get anxiety. So reading subjective, we all have our own taste. This person said, I didn't like It Ends With Us. I loved It Ends With Us. It's one of my faves. Now, do I think that a character in there should get redemption? No, I do not. They are the villain, and I will die on that hill. But yeah, I loved It Ends With Us. So I'm sorry you didn't like it, but I know Coho is really hit or miss with people. Okay, so that is the end of the book section, and now we're gonna go to the Bookish Community, and let's see how this goes. All right, and last up is the Bookish Community. So this first person said, people in the Bookish Community demand too much from authors and content creators. I don't know how I feel about that because I'm so fortunate that most of my subscribers and definitely my patrons have been nothing but the sweetest people alive. Like I said, as you can tell by my voice, I literally took an impromptu week off and I was so scared that my patrons were going to hate me. I was nervous to even go on there. And I felt so bad, but everyone was so supportive and sweet. And honestly, some yelled at me for apologizing and we're like, your health is more important. So I think in that way, I'm very fortunate. Also, most of my YouTube comments, everyone has been very nice. I have had an uptick in negative comments. However, still, I just ignore them. In terms of authors, I don't know what you're referencing when you say demand too much. Because I feel like in some spaces, yes, authors are people. So there are times where people will be upset that it takes 2 years for a book to come out. But that author has to write that book. And they are under tremendous pressure. I also want to say real quick, please do not tag authors in negative reviews. It is their work. It is something they've worked hard for. And that is another whole thing of, do authors belong in reviewer spaces? I'm not going to touch on that right now. But I just feel like you don't need to tag authors in negative reviews. Post your negative review. That is fine. I've posted reviews, but I would never tag an author in a book or in a review of when I don't enjoy their book. I just feel like that's just really hurtful. So, yeah. In terms of demanding too much, I think it depends on what you're talking about. Also, content creators, we're all human. So there's going to be days that we miss videos and that our upload schedule is a little bit slower. But once again, I feel like I'm really fortunate where I haven't really had a super bad experience. But I know friends that have. So we're all human. Let's all just be nice to each other. I know that can be really hard, but this is the next one I've talked about with a lot of people, and I am saddened by it. Booktube community doesn't really feel like a community anymore. I feel like it also depends. So I have amazing friends in the Bookish community. Isa from Fantasy Books, that is my bestie. Also Hannah from Hannah Blackwell. So like, they still feel like a community to me. I would still love to do more reading sprints. I do feel like Booktube as a whole, like I said earlier, does feel very competitive. And I didn't get that feeling as much when I first joined Booktube. And that's kind of a downer. I feel like I would love for us to go back to doing more live shows. Not me in particular, because I'm still very nervous when it comes to lives. But I loved going on reading sprints and things like that. And just uplifting each other and things, I don't know. It just does feel very competitive these days. And that's really sad. Which brings me to my next point. I had two different people say that one person said they are afraid to start a BookTube channel because BookTube is very clicky. And another person said BookTube isn't very open to new BookTubers. And there was someone, I don't know if I can find it now, that was saying that they feel like there's no space for new content creators. Please, if you are a new content creator, please try. I swear, reading is subjective, so there is always going to be space for you. You are always going to have a different opinion on books than another person. So please, there is space for you here. If you want to try out becoming a BookTuber, DM me. It might take me a really long time to answer. If you have any questions, I have a video where I talk about starting a BookTube channel. That'll leave in the cards and the description. I know Cheyenne, I think Ava also does. I'll link all of them down below. So please, if you are considering it, there's room for you here. And I've had so many beautiful experiences with BookTube and Bookstagram, some that have happened this year. So I don't think BookTube is dying. And I'm hoping we can get this community back to where the community was a few years ago. Just talking about books that we adore and that we love and supporting each other. And I love doing collabs. I know Becky from Bex Reads, queen of collaborations, and she's always asking newer BookTubers to also help or also collab. So please, there's space for you here. It made me so sad when I saw that comment. So yeah. And I think there are still amazing people in the Bookish community, and it is still a very welcoming community overall. Is it clicky? Yes, but also, isn't everywhere pretty clicky? I feel like I used to say BookTube isn't clicky, we all get along with each other, but I can understand as someone who is just starting out and is trying to make friends, please, it does feel a little bit clicky at times. However, just DM people on Bookstagram. Bookstagram is going to be your best friend. I feel like most of my friendships, Hannah Blackwell, she just slid into my DM one day randomly and was like, hey, you want to collab? Also, I like your channel. And we've talked almost every day since then. And that was almost 2 years ago. Issa randomly messaged me and was like, hey, would you want to do a buddy read? And I was like, sure. She is one of my best friends now. So I'm not as good about randomly DMing people. I'm a lot more nervous, but I'm kind of like telling you guys to do something that I don't even do. But please, if you DM people, that is the best way to make friendships. And it's the best way to make organic friendships. Also, commenting on YouTube definitely helps, things like that. So please, I love this community. I want to see this community continue to flourish. So there is space for you here. Please, if you are thinking about starting a BookTube channel, please do it. And last up is a comment that I got on Patreon. So this person said, pretentiousness in the bookish community, romance, romantasy, and smutty books still aren't taken seriously from other communities. So I think it is still, which is unfortunate, romance is still kind of looked down upon. I know at work, I still kind of feel uncomfortable when I'm like, oh, like I primarily read romance. And I really shouldn't, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. So yeah, I can understand. There's also an entire conversation over smutty books versus closed door. Neither one is superior. You read what you want to read. If you love closed door, read closed door. If you love smut, read smut. I read both. So yeah, I think it is kind of unfortunate that romance is still kind of looked down. However, I also think it has become a lot more normal for people to talk about romance just in the day-to-day and for people to gush about romance books. So I do feel like when I first started, it was still, and when I first started, that was only like 3.5 years ago. But even from 3.5 years ago, it has become a lot more open to talk about romance and romantasy. And I'm so thankful for that, because romantasy is what I read. I love talking about romantasy and spice and things like that. So I'm thankful it has become a little bit more just relatable and okay to talk about with like your friends and outside of the bookish community. But also I do wish that it was more widely accepted from like the high fantasy community and historical fiction community and things like that. But also I'm not in those communities, so I really don't know how much they're looking down on romance. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think about that, because I feel like it has gotten better, but there is also still room to grow. All right, guys, those are my bookish hot takes. Please let me know down in the comments below, what is your bookish hot take? I will try to respond within a few days of this video posting. And I'd like to say a huge thank you to my Paladin protectors, Amanda, Erin, and Leslie. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. And also thank you guys so much for watching. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.